And welcome back, everybody, to WTL. You know what that stands for. Where's the line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Klassen, joined by
Jabron.
Oh, the Parlay Pounder.
You got it. We're back.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to stay right in our lane with NCAA football.
A couple big matchups.
My God. The good thing, and I've said it before, this conference realignment and all this jazz, it forces the hand in these conferences.
It really does.
You can't dance around it. You got to get these matchups, and they make more money off it. All the things.
They're
all
huge,
the things.
and in these matchups, mean a lot with the college football playoff. But it doesn't mean you're absolutely dead if you lose one of these. So it is fun in that aspect as well. One of these guys, especially the one that we're going to talk about here, 2 versus 3. One of them's coming out with a loss, but that does not mean they're out of the college football playoff.
Not at all. And so you let us right into it, a Big Ten matchup. The Ohio State Buckeyes are heading on up to Eugene, Oregon to take on the third-ranked in the nation, Oregon Ducks. Both teams are 5-0. Oklahoma State's your 3.5-point road favorite. Well, 3. It's opened up. Yeah, but just got bet down to 3. Most books are at 3 now. It did open at 3.5, so not a lot of movement. Still a little early there.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks that I've been talking to, and you listen to pundits and whatnot.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of leaning towards Ohio State pulling off this victory.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people are behind Ohio State just because they finally got tested against an elite defensive front, like we were talking about in the last segment, Iowa, last Saturday, and it answered the bell. The Buckeyes averaged 5 yards per carry and put and just put a really positive game out there for Ohio State fans. And additionally, Chip Kelly's offense on the other side isn't playing at a lightning pace right now, like the Oregon of old, and how you look at it either. So
it's really tough to poke holes through this because last week was their worst offensive outperformance.
Yeah,
they still scored 35 points.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
Yeah, I guess.
So I kind of gee whiz. It's such a curveball because it's a new matchup. You're heading out to Eugene.
It is a new matchup.
And the line being at 3, it just feels like that's where it's going to be.
Yeah, it really does.
3.5.
They're going to give it to they're going to give the line towards Ohio State because you have to, because they're one of the best teams in the nation. But like you said, I do believe that Oregon probably has the better quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. Will Howard has been.
Howard has better numbers.
He's not very efficient, though, throwing the ball down the field, and I believe he's going to have to do that in this game, Andy, more than he's had to do against these opponents that we were just talking about.
Okay.
All right. So, but, to say that, I do believe that with Ohio State, their defensive line, one of the best in the country, they're going to make Gabriel run for his life, and he's going to have not as a finishing game as what they have been doing. So they're number 1 nationally in finishing drives allowed, and that was on full display against Iowa last weekend. So I believe Ohio State pulls this one off and covers.
And we talked about it last segment. Some of the worst teams out there as far as against the spread. Yeah. Oregon, 1-4 this year against the spread. Ohio State's kind of on the other side of that. After we get into this next matchup, I'll kind of get more into that.
Yeah.
Should we move on to that next matchup?
Yeah, I would just say I love the under in this game, Andy. I know a lot of people are probably telling everybody it's Oregon versus Ohio State. Thinking about points. I believe the under is the way. Ohio State, like I said, best defensive line in the country. Buckeyes lead the country in sack percentage, and the thing that makes Ohio's defense is so good, it limits opponents when they cross the 40-yard line.
Yeah.
The Buckeyes rank number 1 nationally in finishing drives allowed. So I believe the under is a good play here as well.
And the public money is following you because this line opened up at 55.5. It's already been bet down to 53 or 53.5, depending on where you're looking. So
let's do it.
There you go. I think you're in a
Ohio State by a little more than what they're predicting.
All right. Well, now, so that game was a kickoff at 6:30 on NBC or Peacock. We have another 6:30 kickoff, so it's going to be a good one. The SEC, a top 13 matchup where the 9th-ranked Ole Miss Rebels, coming off a pretty good win, are taking on the LSU Tigers, and the Tigers are still ranked 13th in the nation.
For sure.
They're still 4-1. The Rebels are 5-1. But the Rebels, God, we're seeing a lot of this. They are the road favorite at 3.5. This line opened at 3.5, and it's staying right there.
Love LSU here, Andy, to win this outright.
Really?
To win this outright.
Well, it is at home.
Yeah, since Lane Kiffin took over as Ole Miss, he has had some really, really good football teams, Andy.
Yeah.
And this year as well, is a very, very good football team. However, he rarely wins big games, especially if they are away from Ole Miss. The Tigers will avoid a second loss, and they stay undefeated in SEC play. This is in Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, one of the the hardest places to play, especially in the SEC. I believe LSU wins this outright. Take the money line, but if you need those points for assurance, take them. LSU wins this game.
Ole Miss is 0-5 against the spread their last 5 games when playing on the road in Louisiana, in the state of Louisiana. That includes a lot of LSU Tiger games. It feels like Lane Kiffin's almost like fool's gold every year. They're good. They're so good. They'll knock off a high-flying opponent, and then they'll just give it right back the next week. And Kelly on the other side, he's kind of a weirdo. Yeah. He's a weirdo, but he's a really good coach. We saw what he could do at Notre Dame, and I think he's got things going in the right direction at LSU.
Yeah, for sure. And I just don't believe in Ole Miss's offensive yet. They have shown explosive tendencies this year, but I believe it's going to be in a different position going into LSU this weekend.
Okay, so you know how we talked about the worst teams against the spread thus far? Let's talk about the best teams in collegiate football against the spread as far as that's concerned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams are 5-0 against the spread so far. That includes BYU, Marshall, Eastern Michigan, Pitt, and Army. Now, Ole Miss is right there at 5-1 against the spread so far. So this is a tricky one. I think that's why you're not seeing a lot of movement on that point spread.
I don't believe it's going to move either, Andy. I believe that most people do believe that Ole Miss is the better team. I just don't believe that they're factoring in that this is a very hard place to play, and LSU isn't get as much love as they are. And they're still sitting there at number 13 in the nation, Andy. Yeah. They are such a good team. And playing at home, the over/under's absolutely insane too, Andy.
Both these teams
they score a lot of points.
Yeah,
but it's at 64 points. Yeah. I believe this kind of a rivalry game. I don't know if you can call it a rivalry game, but I believe this being such a big matchup, I don't think as many points are going to be scored as what people are talking about right now.
Well, the line opened up at 64.5. Now, as you mentioned, a lot of books have gathered or settled on 63.
Yeah.
And really there's only one way for that to go. I mean, you're not betting overs on 64.5.
That's tough.
I mean, that's pretty wild.
That's pretty tough, but they are expecting a shootout, and that's probably the way it's going to be. But I believe LSU gets the last laugh.
All righty, so let's move on to the nightcap.
Nightcap.
That is the 18th ranked Kansas State Wildcats. Heading on out to Boulder to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, Colorado, we've talked a lot of smack a couple of times on these guys, but they are 4-1.
Yeah.
They are 4-1. They have bounced back after the Nebraska loss, and they're playing a pretty good brand of football right now.
Yeah.
I feel like this is more of a toss-up, but the point spread has it at Kansas State at a -4. This line opened up at -5.5.
Yeah.
So you're still getting it's been bet down a little bit, but the overwhelming amount is still on Kansas State.
Yeah, Andy, I feel like I'm saying the same thing about Colorado every week. I love watching
Shedeur.
I love watching Shedeur. I love watching Hunter. They are, they're must-see television. Every week they are. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that the defense
You were high on them against Central Florida, and you got paid off.
Yeah, and I do believe the defense is somewhat improved from last season. I do believe that. I just don't see them playing against an actual football team in Kansas State. We saw against UCF, playing pretenders. UCF isn't initially as good as everybody thought. Mm-hmm. Baylor, lame duck, and they needed a Hail Mary and a Travis Hunter forced fumble right at the end
overtime
to win that one, to pull that one off. I just don't see them.
It's at Folsom Field. It's in Colorado.
It's in Colorado. Again, I don't think that means much either.
What?
I think the shine's kind of coming off them. I think most
it's gonna be a big crowd.
But But is it? But are people even caring about this anymore? I really
they're
don't.
4-1.
I don't believe that. I think
it's a night game on ESPN, national audience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will tune into it. But I've seen that. I just believe the shine is off it. Kansas State wins this one in landslide. I believe Colorado scores 2 touchdowns, probably both to Travis Hunter, and Kansas State kind of rolls them. That's just the way I'm feeling on this game.
Yeah, Shedeur is the better quarterback, maybe the second best player on the field on this one. Hunter has to be the best. I love how he is skyrocketing up on the Heisman.
For sure, he should be.
He very well should be. He deserves it so far.
Yeah.
If it just ended right now, I would think he should get it, which I don't think they're going to give it to him. But anyway, this is being bet down. So right now, you're loving it that it's getting tighter and tighter because you're saying Kansas State's going to give us 5 touchdowns or more.
If this gets to a field goal, this is a surefire one for me, Andy. I just believe that they're going to have their way against Colorado's front. If it gets going, Colorado will not be able to match the Wildcats score for score. I'm not a believer in the Buffaloes yet. I've seen them play. Yeah. I've seen the defense. It's not going to work out for them in this matchup.
Yeah, even North Dakota State came down in the last play of the game, right?
Yes.
First game of the year. Boy, that feels like ages ago. This total keeps getting bet up. Now it's all the way up. It's all the way up to 56.5. So under.
Take the under. Take the Wildcats. Lean to the under, as I don't see Colorado making it far over 20. Like I said, I think they're going to score 2 touchdowns.
Jeez, come on! They scored 20. Yeah, they had a couple stinkers, I guess. 10 against Nebraska, but otherwise they've been pretty prolific.
No, I get it, and he Sanders and Hunter are probably good for 12 to 14 points on the spread themselves.
Yeah,
but I believe that's all that they got. And people are going to catch on to that. Kansas State is a good football team.
Oh, of course
they're going to score 35 points. Colorado's not going to be anywhere near that. They cover easily. Back the under as well.
All righty. I do like the under. I think the under is the smart play there. But, man, I just feel like Colorado could rise up. But, okay, maybe I'll just stay away from that then. We'll just go with the under.
Kansas State's a lot better than UCF and Baylor.
That's a great point. Great point. You heard the horn. That means we're up against it. But let's take a quick minute to recognize one of our fabulous partners, and that is the Nebraska Brewing Company. World class in every glass. Don't go anywhere. This is WTL.